Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday, GDP Thursday. How's everyone doing this morning? Good morning, John. Sterling putting in the information. We got durable goods. We got jobless claims. We have initial and continuing. Initial nice little jump off that, probably due to a lot of the DC layoffs. We have the GDP numbers. As I said, we have the PCE numbers related to GDP. But first, I have to say good morning to Sterling. Thank you, as always, for putting stuff in here when you're available, Sterling. Really appreciate it. Good morning, Patrick. Once Trump clarified he got the dates wrong on the first, he got mixed up there, and then clarified the dates on the tariffs that Canada and Mexico still slated for March 1st, and the other reciprocal tariffs for April. I forget the date, 2nd or something. I don't remember. Dollars rallying bigly off that. Good morning, McRangers. Good morning, Jacob. Good morning, Eric. Sterling putting in NVIDIA. NVIDIA decent. I mean, they beat on revenue, strong revenue growth of margins. That's why it was a little hesitant. Margins were collapsing a bit. I don't know if you put those in here. Good morning, Bull Strike Cheetah. Good morning, Jake. Margins are they're projecting it to go down next quarter. And generally when margin starts going down, revenue starts topping out. Revenue growth starts topping out traditionally. So, good morning, Heinrich. Good morning, Royal Palms. Good morning, Daniel. Hello, Charles. So you're putting in a lot of Amazon AWS Quantum Chief. Calls it scalable and efficient for the quantum tech. Now quantum computing is going to start outshining AI. Ted, good morning. So, all right, we'll wait for some more people to come in as I go over the numbers. So we have durable goods, nice little pop above consensus for the headline number month over month. X transports drop in there, coming back below consensus. Hold on one second. All right, just gotta check some. There we go. Initial jobless claims spike with up to 242K. Consensus was 221. Continuing jobless claims coming in below consensus. So continuing jobless claims dropping, but initial jobless claims spiking. We're gonna have to see if that translates into more continuing jobless claims as to see if people are getting jobs quickly. I don't know, the DC area is going to be saturated with people looking for jobs. Here's your core PCE prices. Now, this is not as important as tomorrow's. Remember, this is based off of last quarter's GDP, but consensus was 2.5, coming in at 2.7 for core. And the PCE quarter over quarter headline number expected 2.3, coming in at 2.4. So, now, real consumer spending coming in line, but still your PCE numbers coming in slightly elevated. So as of last quarter, what do we have now? We have BAR coming up at 10 a.m. We have some pending home sales. We have the Kansas City Composite and Manufacturing Indice. We got Bowman speaking. We got Hammock speaking. We got Harker. And then we got Goolsby later this evening. So a lot of the numbers are out of the way. At this point, pending home sales isn't really going to massively move the market, and nor will the Kansas City Fed. So it's all up to Fed speak today. And then remember, the January PCE numbers come out tomorrow. January PCE numbers come out tomorrow. Good morning, Anissa. So that's where we sit right there. Do not sleep in tomorrow morning. That's going to be interesting. So far, we have NVIDIA up 2.43%. Off their beat with earnings. We're going to have to see if that sustains. All the other mega caps, we got Amazon, Google, Meta, Tesla. Apple's now pulling back after its multi-day rally. But all the other mega caps, it looks like it's by mega cap morning. We'll have to see if they can sustain stuff because things have not been sustained. Now, on the downside, CRM, Salesforce reported yesterday and missed on revenue, and their guidance wasn't so great. So that's starting to drop. I'm going to watch for that to reconnect with the 200 simple also. Groups, let's just do a quick refresh. Comm services, technology, consumer cyclical, all leading. Consumer defensive and healthcare pulling back. Fed watch still. Let me, after clarification of Trump's tariff dates, I just want to see if this changed anything with the Fed watch. Not for next month. We're locked in a pause. We're locked in on a pause for the March meeting, but now it still has a cut in June and then a cut in September. So the cuts keep getting pulled forward. Real interesting. Tomorrow's PCE numbers are going to be very, very interesting. Fear and greed, still an extreme fear, have not been able to get traction yet out of there. PEs, even with this market sort of holding steady, 37.55. In terms of earnings, again, there was not much this morning. After the close, you got Dell. Not much, and tomorrow you really have nothing. Nothing important. Nothing market moving, so it's all going to be PCE numbers. All right, let's take a look. Let's take a look. So, again, we were watching, it could not sustain above Tuesday's high yesterday, so we did not get a percent B buy signal. Yesterday was rallying up and then dropping, or today was rallying up and dropping. My critical levels. 59.75, 59.76 area right in there is support. If that breaks, 59.52. If that breaks, then it's 59.43 on a closing basis. So there's lots of key support levels below and lots of resistance levels higher. To the upside, 60.15, we've already bounced off that level. And then 60.28, if it can get traction above 60.28. If it can get some traction above there today or tomorrow, the next major key level is 60.45. That's the major key level. So, again, it's really got to sustain. I'm using these levels as support or resistance unless we start getting momentum and can turn like this resistance into support. But then we have a resistance area right in here that it really is to break above before we hit that 50% retracement. And the 50% retracement I'm looking, I'll put it back up there, is this 50% retracement. So that's where that 60.45 level comes up. In order for me to really sustain a rally over the next few days, we got to get a close above 60.75. That's exactly how I'm structuring things. So, NASDAQ, we drop down. Again, we have daily cycles turning up on these. We have weekly cycles still headed down. So we could, if these PCE numbers tomorrow come in a little dovish, we could finally get a little sustained bounce in here. Just because the cycle's heading up, but we have a cycle mismatch. I'll start watching for more so when the NASDAQ gets to a top again on daily and keeps heading down on the weekly. That's when I'll really perk up for another key sell opportunity. Unless for the NASDAQ, if we start breaking below 21,100, then I'll start looking back down to the 87.5 magnet price of 20,900. In the short term, the key little level we're trading right there now, this 21.55 area. Above 21.55, I'm looking at 21.440, 450 area, and then above there, there is not much. There is not much until we get closer to 21.675. Based off the projections, I'd be looking at 21.655 to 21.675 on any sustained rally as the key topping zone. So, Dow. The Dow, we already spiked down just below the key support level at 43,480. We break below that. I'm looking at 43.4. We break below 43.4. I'm kissing it goodbye to 43,190. Very key resistance is 43,800. We break above that. I'm looking at a return to 44,100 area. Russell, so far basing sideways. We got daily cycles at the bottom. Has not been able to sustain anything. My key resistance level on here is 2200. That just happens to be, it just happens to be the round number. And key support coming in about 2170. 2168 to 2170. We break below 2170, then I'm watching for the double to finally finish playing out and possibly get down to this 2130 area. VIX, little dropping volatility coming out, but not yet back down that 15 mark. Has not been able to really sustain anything. Again, if we start really dropping below about 1775, then I'm going to start watching for the choppier rally. DAX, remember, little gap down here in double top territory, but not triggered yet. Now, if this one were to trigger before becoming invalid, it's out of the way of the rotation zone on the daily. That's what's interesting there. Notes, little pullback here, little pullback pause here, but if we, again, take out this key high area of 110.28, then 111.02 to 111.06 is still the magnet price area. Very key support coming back at 110. On the yields, tried to pop a little more earlier, but there's been a lot of pressure on yields. So if yields break down below 4.25, I'm watching for a reconnect with the areas from the beginning of December, the low areas, right about this 4.2. And that will be very key support. Dollar index. This turned into a triple on the potential double bottom, so we cannot use those targets. However, if we do sustain above 106.35, the key target area is about 106.95. So that's what I'm keeping an eye on. You can look at, I will be looking to raise a stop on anything with the dollar index around 106.75 and then shoot for about 106.95 would be the key target area. Crude, we still had this overextended. It was setting up for a nice double, but it overextended too far, so you cannot use the double targets. However, we are into a clear path move. So the first target was still the breakdown zone, 69.80. The next target is the end of the single candle clear path move, 70.15. So those are the two targets on this little move. Already the first target's been checked off. Is this into a huge bounce? No, we're going into major overhead resistance. The next target, if it continues through 70.15, major resistance is 70.50 to 70.60. Gold, dipping below the rotation zone. That was the first dip below the rotation zone since this rally, below the bottom of the rotation zone. So I'm still watching. Still watching this about 2,900 area on a closing basis. We start going below there. I'm in neutral mode on the daily, which means I'll start watching for the bigger pullback potentially to the weekly rotation zone. Again, after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks up straight, this is not surprising. Then I'll start watching for buy setups back in the weekly rotation zone, but we have not closed below the daily rotation zone yet. So far, based off the magnitude of this rally, this is still a sideways correction. Okay? Still holding the lows from February 18th. What else do we have? Copper, trying a little bounce here off of very key support level. With cycles turning up, I want to see how it reacts if it can get above 470 again. The yen, trying to carve out a base at this very key support level here. So if we can finally pop through this area of 150, we could see a little short-term recovery rally to about 151.20 to 151.20. Bitcoin, little slight bounce here. Remember, continuing selling. Finally reconnected yesterday with the 200. That's the first reconnection since it broke out at the middle of October. We have cycles trying to turn up from overbought, but on any rally, unless we rally enough to wipe out the triggering of the double, I'll be watching for rollover plays. Now, if the PCEs come in and we get to go into risk on mode tomorrow morning, then I'll watch for a more sustained rally in Bitcoin before the next rollover play. Spiders. Where are my spiders go? There they are. Gap up today, so on any rollover play, it would be to the gap fill to the close, which is roughly the 50% harmonic yesterday. So keep that in mind. That 594.54 still holding the rotation zone on the closing basis and the 62.5. So on any further selling would be yesterday's lows right at that 62.5, 589.56. On a more sustained rally, 599.20. The level has not changed. And then through that level, we have very key resistance at 601.95. The Qs yesterday technically closed below the 62.5. Still in the rotation zone, so I'm still watching for bounce rollover plays on the NASDAQ. Still watching for any bounce plays, for rollover plays. We still have a gap left behind to 519.87. We're looking to gap up to 518.35, so that's the first level. And then the next level is 521.75 area, which is a major breakdown zone. Very, very key support coming in at 513.50 and then 510 roughly. How much is too extended for a double bottom? How do you measure? Let's go back to crude. Let me do it on the 4 hour. It's easier to see. So this was a potential double bottom, but if we exceed, going from the peak to the left-hand side, if we exceed the 25% projection harmonic, it's gone too far. Doesn't mean you can't still have a bottoming pattern. It just means you can't use the double targets. Okay? So that's how that's measured. Same for tops. For example, for this double top, if you came from here to here, see how it did not exceed the 25% harmonic extension? So this one was still valid. Then you have to check the targets. So the targets on the conservative side from this one, you want your first and second target to be within the candle bodies of the move that started it. And all three targets were in there. So this was completely valid to use the targets because it didn't overextend here. This one overextended here, so you can't use a target, so I will watch for breakdown zones and other key targets. All right? Does that make sense? That's how you set it up. Great job, Sterling. Do you have a level on the weekly that jumps out as major resistance for gold? Major resistance for gold? Well, the major resistance for gold at this point on any bounce play, we're going to see how this lines up with recent price action. The major, look, here's your major resistance area, and it just so happens, see this area? So you have the prior support with all these dips below it, and then it broke below it, and then it retested that level. And look where the 62.5 is. They're virtually the same area. So that's the area I'd be watching. On any rally, that's your very key resistance area. Okay? You want support. Support on the weekly. Well, now, support on the weekly is the first major support level is right about 2850 area, 2855. And then your major support level, if it were to break below that, is 2,800. Okay. Great. You understand that. Fantastic. All right. What else did I miss here? Deck. Did technically do a percent B buy yesterday. Remember, my first target is the rotation zone on these going against the rotation zone. So this was a short-term topping pattern. So that means I have to be a little more aggressive on a stop because this is not a long-term bottoming pattern. So do keep that in mind. The next target area for deck would be about 154. And then I'd be looking closer to the top of the rotation zone. What else do we have here? OKLO. Let me remove the prior. Really nice how that formed that double top or that harmonic. The double top played out nicely. And now we did get the percent B buy with cycles turning up, coming out of overbought conditions. So remember, you still have a gap left behind here to 38.79. So that would be a very key area. I'd at least be looking to raise a stop, if not taking some partial profits. And then my next target would be about 40.80. All right, with the cycles rising. Now, is this a long-term buy? Coming down to the bottom of the rotation zone, getting a bounce here, but this is not a long-term buy unless it shows some major momentum and then can really follow through. This would be something I'd be looking to raise a stop, taking profits, and then watching if it did continue how it reacted about 44.50. Because this could be another rollover play. We're getting the bounce off the bottom of the rotation zone very nicely, but this has a lot of heavy lifting to do to get back into bull mode besides a short-term bounce play. All right. Okay. There we have it. Little going into the open. Directly, I'd pay attention to 6K. Just happens to be that area of providing resistance. But overall than that, then the target would be that 615 area of very key resistance into the downside. I'm looking at 579 to about 576 as the key support zone. Fine-tuning it off the shorter term chart. With that, I shall talk to everyone tomorrow. Remember, PCE numbers coming out 1 hour before the cash open. So do not get caught off guard with that. If they do come in at all dovish, it could really propel things a little recovery rally, at least in the short term. I'm going to be watching to see if we do rally intraday, if it can sustain anything, or if we keep getting the afternoon selling pressure. We've not been able to sustain any rally right now. We still have the dip buyers. The dip buyers just below, this 59.50 to 59.40 area is very key for dip buyers, but rally sellers, anything that's popping above about the 6,015 is getting sold. So it's got to really sustain something above there to keep a rally going. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I shall talk to you tomorrow. Bye for now.